Hey yogis and welcome. I'm Lorelai. This is Namasturm Yoga. This is going to be an audio only yoga practice. If you are an experienced yoga practitioner who doesn't actually need the visual guidance of watching someone else do the practice, this practice might be for you. It gives you a chance to really focus on your own practice. Just listen to the sound of my voice as I guide you through the poses and enjoy. For today's practice, let's start in child's pose. Bring your knees to the floor, bring your feet together, knees a little wide, hips to your heels, and then lengthen your body out on the floor, resting your forehead on your mat, arms outstretched ahead of you, relaxed. Close your eyes and feel the breath as it moves in and out of the body here. The back of the body will expand as you inhale. And then each time you exhale, you might feel yourself sink closer to your mat. If you're joining me for this practice, because it is audio only, you may have to focus a little bit more on what I'm saying. I'll try to be as clear as I can and give pose names so that you know where to go next. But if for some reason you get lost or are uncertain, just trust your own body and allow this time on your mat to be your own. If you don't match up perfectly with my suggestion, it's okay. It's your practice. Just taking a moment here to check in with yourself, noticing how you're feeling, noticing your breath, maybe moving into an ujjayi practice, slightly narrowing the back of the throat, allowing the friction you've created to bring some sound to the inhale and the exhale. And then try to create a nice steady rhythm for your breath as well, so that you're moving through evenly, no pauses between inhales and exhales. On an inhale, bring yourself all the way up to hands and knees, and we're going to go into some cat-cow stretches, so on your exhale, you can let your spine round. Inhale, head and tail lift, chest and belly drop. Exhale, tuck the tail, drop the head, arch the spine. Back and forth, follow the pace of your breathing through this simple cat-cow flow. Flexion and extension. This should feel good. It's just a warm-up for your body, but it also gives you a chance to connect the movement of your body to the movement of your breath. I like to think of it as a dance. The breath and body are moving together, but in a dance, one is the leader, even though it's imperceptible to anyone watching. And here, the breath should be the leader. Releasing the cat-cow flow when you're ready. Take the right leg out to the side. It'll probably be off your mat. And then pick the right arm up and twist yourself open towards the ceiling. That right arm may stack over the shoulder, or you might even find that it's leaning back behind you as you turn your chest and head upward. Make sure you're still breathing, staying with that steady ujjayi. And then come on back to center, right hand and knee down again. Switch to the left side, so left leg out, left arm out, up, open towards the ceiling, towards the sky, towards whatever's above you. Let your gaze move up as well. And then hands and knees back to the floor. And then we're just going to simply come right into a downward facing dog. So tuck your toes, lift your knees and your hips, and start to move the heart back. Spread your fingers wide and root into the entire underside of your hand. Start to work the legs just a little bit. So with the hips in the air, bend one knee, let the opposite leg straighten, and then switch sides in your own time. And then from here, leveling out, take your right leg into the air. Stretch the toes for the ceiling. Feel free to let your hip open on this stretch, but try to keep your shoulders level. Breathe. And then swinging that right foot all the way up to the front of the mat, all the way between your hands. Lower your left knee down. We're coming to a low lunge. Right knee over ankle. Bring your upper body up. You can either plant your hands on your front thigh, take your arms into the air, or maybe even bring your hands behind your head, allowing the head to lean back as you widen your elbows. And then bringing your hands back to the ground. Bring your right knee back to meet your left, and then bend your elbows to lower your heart between your hands so your belly is all the way on the floor. Moving to cobra pose. The first cobra might be just a baby cobra with no weight in your hands, or you might extend the arms somewhat. Keep the shoulders rolled back. The heart is up and forward. Neck is aligned with the spine, so we're not dropping the chin or craning the head all the way back. Nice and even, steady. Breathe into this small back bend. And then from here, downward facing dog. We'll do the second leg, so swing that left leg all the way up into the air, almost like you're trying to reach the ceiling with your toes. Get that lifted foot as high as it can be without skewing your shoulders. The hips can open, shoulders level. And then sweep that left foot forward all the way up between the hands, knee over ankle. Right knee is going to be on the floor for this low lunge now on the other side. Bring your upper body up. Take the same hand or arm position as you did on the first side. Left knee over ankle, but you can let your hips sink forward towards that front heel. So you're lunging into that left hip, but you should also feel a stretch for the right quad, and of course a bit of a back bend with that upright lift of the torso. Hands to the floor. Step your left knee back to meet the right, and then lift both knees off the ground to come to plank pose, holding for a few breaths here. Stabilizing through your core, hips almost as high as the shoulders, nice and long through the torso, including the back of the neck. Remember, our neck is part of our spine. Now this time as you lower, you might keep the knees lifted and just lower to chaturanga by bending the elbows. And then maybe keeping the legs off the ground, just flip to the tops of the feet and take up dog. Or if you prefer to stick with cobra, feel free. Take a couple of breaths once again in the back bend. If you're in upward facing dog, again, without bringing the knees to the ground, see if you can just flip over your feet and move to downward facing dog. We'll hold here for a few breaths, lengthening the pose each time you inhale from your hands to your hips. As you exhale, move your heart back towards your thighs. Maybe straighten the legs, maybe drop the heels just a bit more. Looking to the front of the mat, walk the feet up about hip distance apart and just allow yourself to dangle at the top of the mat. Really simple forward fold. Don't worry so much about stretching the backs of your legs. Do try to release the upper body. If your hands naturally hit the ground, grab your elbows so that they don't, and so the entire weight of your arms can give itself up to gravity. Just let go here. Release your elbows if you've got them, bend your knees,
Roll on up to standing. Take a moment to roll your shoulders back. And then with your feet still hip distance apart, inhale, reach the arms out and up, interlace your fingers and turn the palms to press them up towards the ceiling. Breathe as you stretch. Try to soften your shoulders just a little bit. And then grabbing hold of your left wrist with your right hand, gently pull yourself over to the right for a nice side stretch. As you do this, you might also shift your hips over to the left to really increase that arc. And then coming back up, just switch sides. So grab the right wrist with the left hand, give it a little tug, and shift yourself to the other side, side stretching. Maybe the right hip moves more to the right. And then coming back up, bring your palms together in front of the heart. Walk the feet together now so that big toes touch, heels are slightly apart. This way the feet are together but also parallel. Maybe close your eyes for a moment, tune back into that Ujjayi breath. We're going to follow the breath into the first sun A here. When you're ready, inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, swan dive forward over your legs. On an inhale, take Ardha Uttanasana, flattening out the back. As you exhale, step to plank and lower to Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale to Cobra or Up Dog. Exhale, Downward Facing Dog, and hold here. You can hold your down dog for up to 5 breaths. As we go through a series of sun A's, you might like to keep these down dogs long, or you might prefer to keep them really short and just keep the flow going through the body. When you're ready to move on, inhale just to look forward. Exhale, step, walk, or lightly hop to the top of the mat with your feet together. Inhale, take your half lift, which is Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. Reverse your swan dive, come all the way up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. And again, inhale, reach the arms. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. One or more inhales. When you're ready, exhale, step, walk, or hop forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold down deep. Inhale, reverse the swan dive. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Keep flowing. Stay with your own rhythm. Don't worry if you're faster or slower than I was cueing you. Try to find that rhythm of your own Ujjayi. Stay consistent and go with your flow. The next time you get to downward facing dog, allow yourself to hold there and find a few moments of stillness. Although the body may be still in downward facing dog, because the breath is still flowing, the rhythm continues. So don't lose your ujjayi. Now let's take the right leg into the air. This time try to keep your hip square. This is more of the default down dog split with your thigh still facing the floor, toes flexed downward. Now, keeping your leg out stretched, bring your shoulders forward over your wrists for a one-legged plank. From here, see if you can just roll to the outer edge of your left foot for a side plank on the left. That right foot may come to rest on top of the left foot, or if you want to keep a little space between the feet, you can just let that right leg hover in the air. Shoulders stack, right arm is up in the air. Maybe lift your gaze to look up to your lifted thumb. Lift your hips a little. Now, let your gaze look to the front of your mat so that you can step your right foot all the way forward, all the way up next to your left hand. We're going to come to a high lunge, so finding crescent pose now. Right foot is forward. You're on the ball of your left foot. Lift your torso and lift your arms into the air. Find your balance here. Right knee over the ankles. Stretch out your left leg so that it's nice and strong behind you. Breathe. Now, keeping your right knee bent, see if you can just step that left foot right up by the right one for chair pose. Feet together, both knees bent now. Utkatasana. Taking a couple more breaths here. Weight on your heels, knees over ankles, arms alongside your ears. And then on an exhale, forward fold as you straighten the legs. Inhale, take Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana, and follow through the Vinyasa to get back to downward facing dog. And we'll do the other leg. So take your left leg into the air. Once again, try to keep the hip nice and square so the leg feels as though it's an extension from the arms to the torso all the way to your heel. Now, moving shoulders forward over the wrists, one-legged plank. Left leg still extending out behind you. And then just rolling to the outer edge of your right foot. And as you do this, the left hand will lift. The feet will either stack or you might keep your left foot hovering above the right one. Shoulders over the right wrist, left arm into the air. Try to flatten out the plane of your body. Maybe turn your head and look up and lift your hips a little bit. Now, swinging your left foot all the way up to the front of the mat for the high lunge on the other side. Roll back to the ball of your right foot, and then you can pick your right hand up off the ground and come on up for crescent pose. Steady your gaze at a single point ahead of you to help with the balance. Reach through the back heel, lunge into the front knee, gazing forward. Now keeping your left knee bent, let's step the right foot right up next to it, bending that knee as well, chair pose, Utkatasana. And then from here, take your time flowing through a vinyasa to get back to down dog. Of course, at this point, if you prefer to skip the vinyasa sequence, you could just go straight back to downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, let's take the right leg into the air. Just one breath, inhale, and then exhale, step it forward. This time, let's take warrior one. So slightly different from crescent pose in that the back heel is now pivoting to the ground. Left toes turned out slightly, hips squared forward, front knee over ankle, and then the arms up into the air. If you want, bring your palms together now and look up to your lifted thumbs. From here, let's move to a humble warrior. So take your hands and interlace them together behind your back. Pull your shoulder blades onto your back. Keeping your legs as they are, allow your upper body to sink down, either resting your torso on your right thigh or maybe dropping it inside the thigh as the arms reach up and over. Relax your neck, let your head hang down. Keep rooting into the outer edge of your back foot so that your back heel doesn't lift, and bending into the front knee. From here, release your hands. Inhale up to Warrior One more time, and then travel through Vinyasa to get back to Downward Facing Dog. Let's do the other side, so take your time. Inhale, lift the left leg into the air. Exhale, step it forward to the front of your mat. Pivot the right heel down. Align your hips. Take the arms up and find your Warrior One on the other side. If you like, bring your palms together, looking up to your thumbs. Continue to deepen your lunge as you hold this pose, but try to keep the stability of the hips and the back heel pressing down. And then taking your hands together behind your back, interlace the fingers, pull your shoulder blades together, and sink down with the upper body into your humble warrior. Legs stay very strong and stable in this pose, but we can really release the upper body. As we do so, you'll feel a deeper stretch in your hips, and as the arms move up and overhead, you'll feel a deep stretch in your shoulders. Breathe and let go with that upper body. On an inhale, bring yourself back up for one more strong breath in Warrior One, and then exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, Cobra or Up Dog. Exhale, Downward Facing Dog. Now inhale, look to the front of the mat. Exhale, step, walk, or lightly hop the feet forward. Inhale, take a half lift. Exhale, fold Uttanasana. Bend the knees, sink the hips, Utkatasana. Hold for just a breath or two. We're going to flow through a couple of sun bees just to get back into the flow of the breath, using poses that we've already established. When you're ready, on an exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, Up Dog or Cobra. Exhale, Downward Facing Dog. Inhale, right leg into the air. Exhale, step it forward. Inhale, up for Warrior One. And then exhale, Chaturanga. Inhale, Up Dog or Cobra. Exhale, Downward Facing Dog. Other side. Inhale the left leg up. Exhale, step it forward. Inhale, Warrior One on the left. Exhale, high to low plank. Inhale, Up Dog or Cobra. Exhale, Downward Dog. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step, walk, or hop. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Continue through your vinyasa. Take the second round on your own. Follow the rhythm of your own breath. Once you get back to Downward Facing Dog, just let yourself hold and rest for a few breaths. If you need Child's Pose, you can always drop your knees to the floor, hips to the heels, forehead to your mat. Let's go ahead and now walk the hands to the back of the mat, coming all the way to a forward fold at the back of the mat. Let's take the right leg all the way up into the air for a standing split. Reach your leg high. Maybe take your left hand behind your left ankle or heel if your balance is good. Fingertips very lightly on the floor. And then taking your right foot back to the ground, let's just take the other side. So left leg into the air, weight on the right foot. If fingertips are on the ground, they should be very light. This is almost a balancing position. You can make it more of a balancing position by bringing your right hand behind your right ankle or heel. Use that to draw your torso closer to your standing leg and lift your left leg higher. And then bringing your left foot back to the floor, bend your knees and roll up to standing. Now step out nice and wide, parallel feet. We're going to take Prasrita Padottanasana here. So with the feet about a leg length apart, bring your hands to your hips and begin to take a nice wide-legged forward fold. Once you get about halfway down, you can allow your fingertips to come to the floor, aligning fingers with toes. Some of you might find that the palms naturally come to the floor, in which case, align your palms with your feet. Lift your quads, so engaging the fronts of your legs, and then shift your weight forward toward the balls of the feet so that the heels get light. As you go deeper, you might find that your palms are flat and your elbows start to bend. Keep the elbows stacked over the wrists. If you're able to go deep enough that your head actually comes to the floor, if you feel like floating your legs up into a tripod handstand or headstand, and you feel like it's safe to do so, go ahead. Start to transfer the weight off the heels more towards the balls of the feet, and then eventually onto your head, floating the legs up. Just a reminder, hands and head in this position should be in a triangle, not a straight line across. If you're in your forward fold, just continue to fold, opening the backs of the legs. If you're in your tripod headstand, start to float the feet back to the floor, trying to return to Prasrita Padottanasana. And then everyone, hands to your hips, float back up. Let's turn the right toes open and shift into triangle pose towards the right. Keeping the legs straight, keep the sides of the torso long. See if you can bring the back of the right hand against the inner shin and take the left arm up. Lean the head and shoulders back. Tuck your right hip in, and then turn your head and look up towards your right thumb. Left thumb, the lifted thumb. We're going to move to half moon pose, so go ahead and take your left hand to your left hip. Bend your right knee enough so that you can transfer your weight to your right leg, and then bring the right fingers forward to the floor or a block or a book or some sort of support if you need it, and float the left leg up off the ground. Try to keep your lifted leg extended. This is easier to do if you flex your foot and push through the heel. Leveling out your heel and your hip and maybe even your heart and head. Reach the top arm up and extend. Balancing. As we step out of this pose, bend your front knee and step back long with that left foot. We're going to come right to Warrior Two. So Virabhadrasana 2, front knee bent over ankle, outer edge of the back foot roots down. And now let your arms just come out at shoulder height. Hips are level with each other, and then the shoulders just stack right above the hips. Look out over your front fingertips. Turn your front palm up, look to your fingers, reverse warrior. Take a couple of breaths here. And then cartwheel your hands to the floor around your right foot. Step to plank and take a vinyasa. Returning to downward facing dog. And then from down dog, inhale, look to the front of your mat. Exhale, step, walk, or hop the feet forward. Half lift and fold Uttanasana. Reverse swan dive, coming back up. Let's step out wide again. We're going to do a second version of Prasrita and then do the standing poses on the second side. This time, instead of just bringing your hands to the floor as you fold, reach for your big toes, grab hold of them, pull up on the toes, and allow your elbows to bend a little bit. Use that to help pull yourself just a little bit deeper. Be gentle, but it's a nice suggestion. Let the weight of your head hang heavy so the neck is not trying to hold it up. Again, shift the weight forward toward the balls of the feet. We don't want to crush our fingers, but we just don't want to put all the weight on the heels. Lift the quads, open the backs of the legs. When you're ready to come up, bring your hands back to your waist and float back up to standing. Now this time let's turn the left toes open, coming to triangle, Trikonasana on the left side. Tuck your left hip in, let the right hip move back. Extend the sides of your torso as you tip or tilt into this pose. You can rest your left fingers on your shin. I actually really like back of the hand against the inner shin. I think it can help to move that top shoulder open. So now that right arm is directly above you. Turn your head and look up towards it. Now moving in the direction of half moon, Ardha Chandrasana on the left. Start by taking your right hand to your hip. Bend your left knee so you can transfer the weight to that left foot. Bring your left fingers to the floor or a block or something ahead of you. The idea is that your left hand should be right under your shoulder. Sides of the torso are long, and then your right leg just floats up behind you. Heel as high as your hip. If you can, take the right arm now up, right over your shoulder. The arms in half moon are very similar to the arms in triangle pose. When you're ready to leave the balance, try to do it with a lot of control. Bend your standing knee and step back far but also lightly with your right foot. You're landing your legs for warrior two. Now let your body come upright so your torso stacks vertically right over your hips. Bring your arms out at shoulder height, palms facing the floor. Turn your head to look over your left fingers. Breathe. Now turn your left palm up. Reverse warrior for a few breaths. Right hand rests lightly on your back leg. Keep lunging into that front knee. And then cartwheel your hands down around your left foot, step to plank, and take a vinyasa, coming back to downward facing dog. Breathe here. From down dog, let's go ahead and drop the knees to the floor. We're also going to bring the forearms down to the floor, setting up for dolphin pose. Elbows under shoulders. Let your forearms come almost to like a triangle. Interlace the fingers and root down with the forearms. Now tuck your toes, lift your knees and your hips. Walk your toes in a little closer so that your hips are as high as you can get them. Move your heart back. Relax your neck. Your head should be hanging freely without touching the floor or your arms. If you can, Take your right leg up into the air, reach those toes for the ceiling. If you'd like, bend your left knee, take some little hops up off your left toes. Just get slightly airborne for a moment. And then take your right foot back to the ground, switch sides, take your left leg up, reach the toes for the ceiling. Again, the head is not on the floor, root down through the forearms to get more lift with that leg. And then if you'd like, bend the right knee, take a couple little hops up off of your right toes, using that bottom leg as a spring, softly landing with the knee bent as well. Top leg should stay straight. And then toes down, knees down, hips to heels. Give yourself a moment in child's pose again. From child's pose, come on up to your knees. Let's take camel pose. Let's tuck the toes behind us. Hips over the knees. Bring your hands behind you to your waist, supporting your tailbone, just as a reminder to tuck the tailbone. Shoulder blades rest on the upper back, and maybe they even go a little deeper into the upper back to move the heart up and forward. Rounding the front of the body. If you're able to come to a deeper back bend, you might be able to release your hands from your waist and let them come back to your feet. Let them reach your heels. Keep your hips over your knees, chin in, or your head could go all the way back to your shoulder blades. Let's just take a few more breaths here, finding your back bend. This should not be pinching in your low back. When you're ready to come up, your head should be the last thing to come up if it is back. Support your waist with your hands again. Coming all the way back up to your knees. Now bring your hands to the mat in front of you and come to a very narrow down dog so that your hands and feet are closer to each other than usual. We're going to take a little twist. So take your left hand over to the right leg, so reaching under your body to grab the outer leg, twisting under your right arm. Root down with your right palm and your right heel. And then switching sides, so take your left hand down, and now the right hand's going to come over to that outer left leg, almost like you're trying to pull yourself through under your left arm. Maybe look up. Find that twist for the torso. And then back to that narrow downward facing dog. From here, we're going to step the right foot forward, but keep this kind of narrow alignment. So your right foot's going to come forward to about where your hands were. We're going to take pyramid pose. So now root your left heel down and allow your arms to just fold over that right leg. So weight is on your feet. If you want to, for just a moment, bring your hands to your hip flexors. Try to make sure your hips are pretty level here as you fold, but then allow your hands to come to either the floor or your shin, and just let yourself give up the weight of your upper body. Keep the legs nice and strong. And then from here, bring the hands back to the waist. Come somewhat out of your fold to lengthen the torso so that your head is reaching directly forward away from your tailbone. We're going to move to a revolved triangle. So keeping your left heel down, now take your left fingertips down in line with your right toes. Take the right arm up into the air and twist to the right. Turn your head to the right, maybe even looking up towards your right fingers. And then finally, if you'd like, revolve half moon. Start to just tilt your weight onto that right foot, floating the left leg behind you. You'll also need to move your left fingers forward ahead of your foot so that your arm ends up right under your shoulder. Find your balance, press through the lifted heel, and breathe. To come out of your revolve half moon, just slide your left foot up next to the right so that you're standing at the top of the mat. Inhale, reach the arms out and up, coming to standing. And then exhale, swan dive forward, Uttanasana. Let's take a Vinyasa to get back to downward facing dog. Once you're in downward facing dog, remember to take a slightly narrower version, again, so that hands and feet are just a little bit closer together. And then step the left foot forward up to about where your hands were. And then you should be able to just easily pick up your hands and come to pyramid. Let your right heel root down. The right toes are going to have to turn out slightly, but it shouldn't be dramatically. If you need some alignment guidance, bring your hands to your hips and check to see that the hips are level. You could also place a hand on your tailbone to check this out. But once you're assured that your hips are pretty even, allow the upper body to just drape and fold over your left leg. Pyramid. Now, taking another moment to bring your hands to your hip flexors, push them back and lengthen your torso forward so that your spine gets nice and long and it feels like your head is just reaching forward. From here, drop your right fingers down right under your shoulder, which should put them in alignment with your left toes, and then rotate your torso to the left to take your left arm up for revolved triangle. Try to keep that right heel down and the front leg remains straight. Breathe as you open. Now, when you're ready, starting to shift your weight forward. Do bring those right fingertips a little bit ahead as you start to transfer the weight to the left foot. Let your right leg float up off the ground, extending behind you. Try to keep your rotation. Revolve half moon. And then from here, allow that right foot just to slide up next to the left one. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, bring your palms together in front of the heart, coming back to Tadasana, standing pose. And breathe. We're going to take one more back bend. This is going to be a standing back bend, very similar to camel pose, however, Ustrasana. So take your hands now behind your back to your waist as you did going into camel. Pull your shoulder blades deeper into your back, lift your heart. Now you can start to shift your hips forward as you tuck your shoulder blades deeper, maybe let the head go back. Alternately, you could just keep your chin tucked in. But letting the hips shift forward and the heart open as you take a back bend here. Breathe. Make sure your weight is strongly on your feet. Make sure this isn't pinching in your low back. Make sure you're still able to breathe. Even if this is small, you should still feel that stretching or opening across your chest. Now, if your head is back, reminder that should come up last as you bring yourself upward. Take your time, really support your waist here with your hands and also your core. So engage your abdominal muscles to bring yourself all the way back up to standing. And then allow yourself to bend the knees and sit all the way back to boat pose, Navasana. So coming to your sit bones and then helping yourself to bring the feet up off the ground, extending the legs in front of you, extending the arms out alongside the legs, creating that nice little V shape, balancing on your sit bones. Navasana. Breathe. And from here, bringing the feet back to the floor, take your hands behind you. We're going to take a reverse tabletop. So plant your palms, tuck your shoulder blades into your upper back, and then pressing your feet down, lifting your hips up with the knees over the ankles, trying to get the hips as high as the knees. Chin in or head back if that feels good. And then carefully lowering your sit bones back to the floor. Let's take one more boat. Maybe hands come behind the thighs to support. Let the feet come off the ground, shins maybe level with the floor. And then once you feel like you're up and stable through your core, let the arms extend out. Keep your heart lifted. And then allow yourself to lower down. Let's go ahead and tuck the soles of the feet together and the heels, bring them in and the knees wide. So we're going to Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. Knees wide, edges of the feet to the floor, and the closer they are to your body, the more you're going to work the hips. But if you need to have them a little further away, that's okay as well. Allow your upper body now to start to sink forward and give in to this stretch. Relax your neck. Breathe into the back of the body. Come up nice and easy. Now we're going to keep the left foot tucked in, maybe slide it over by the right hip, and then step your right leg over the left. We're going to take a nice seated twist. So plant the right foot outside of your left leg with the right knee up. Now with the right knee up, we're going to use the left arm to twist to the right. So grab onto that right knee or bring it past the right knee and twist over your right shoulder. Breathing here. Releasing your twist to the first side, let's just change sides. So change the legs, bring your right heel over by your left hip, step your left foot over the right leg, and then using your right arm, we're going to twist over the left shoulder. Breathe. Carefully coming out of your twist. Take the legs out, give them a little shake. Let's come to Dandasana, staff pose. So extend the legs straight out in front of you. Bring the hands next to you, pressing down into your mat with the hands if the palms will reach the floor. Flex the feet back towards you, engage your quads. This is a strong pose where we elongate the legs. It's very structured. We're going to move in the direction of Paschimottanasana. So now inhale, reach the arms out and up. Keep the legs very strong, but let the upper body start to go now as you just allow yourself to fold, draping your torso, your arms down. The hands may rest on the floor. For those of you who can easily reach the feet, you can go ahead and hold on to the outer edges of the feet, maybe gently encouraging the pinky toe side of the ball of the foot back towards you. You might be able to really relax the neck so that that head can just drop down. Be where you're at. We're going to spend several breaths in this pose. No rush to get deeper. Just allow it to happen. Take your time moving slowly, gently up out of this forward fold. Once your upper body is up, maybe give your legs a little shake. Maybe roll your shoulders back a few times. Maybe roll your head around, stretching out your neck. And then let's just tuck the feet in and come to an easy seated position, Sukhasana, to finish up the practice.
Coming back to a seated position. Close your eyes, bring your palms together in front of the heart, tuning into your breath. We'll end this practice with a simple bow forward. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. Thank you so very much for joining me and sharing this practice. Namaste. All right, well, I encourage you to take a little time in Shavasana now to really complete your practice for yourself. I encourage you to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the practice, and I hope you'll let me know in the comments what you liked about this audio-only style. If you did like it, I have heard from some other people that they enjoyed it, so I'm happy to keep making more if it's something that people are getting something out of. I enjoy it as well myself, so it can be a little bit of fun to just change things up a bit. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I hope you'll join me next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.